So my husband, who is 36 years old, and I, who am 40 years old, have been together for 5 years, and in those years our marriage has been amazing. Of course, there are moments when we'd bicker, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I was very happily married and thought my marriage was rock solid. We've been through challenging times, but always weathered anything that came our way. This December, I really felt like we were in a good place, and there was no drama at all. Then, on December 23rd, I noticed a funny tone in my husband's voice when I asked him a question. So I asked him if he was all right, and he tells me he wants to move out. Like, what? Just hours before, we were cuddling in bed and being playful, and this came out of nowhere. So obviously, I had a meltdown because I was so blindsided. So fast forward through Christmas, and I barely make it through the holidays, as I need to pretend everything is okay for everyone. I ended up in the hospital multiple times having massive panic attacks and heart issues. I was unable to eat, drink, or sleep. It's like I'm not even in my body anymore, and I'm living someone else's life. I'm not someone who has ever had panic attacks. On December 27th, he moved out into a room he rented in a shared house. I did all I could to treat him with grace and love, as I really didn't want him to go. But I decided if he left with me in anger, it would be harder for him to feel like he could come back if he wanted to. I helped him pack and bought and washed his new bedding because I love him and am apparently pathetic. We even ended up having amazing intimacy the day before he left too. He said my being so loving and kind about it made him feel bad, which wasn't my intention. I just love him so much and could see he's got something going on. We've spoken via text and on the phone, and he has indicated to me that it has nothing to do with me and that he loves me, but that due to life stress, he's lost the romantic love for me. He said he'd like to try and date me to see if we can rekindle, but then the next day he sounds less interested. So he's back and forth and all over the place, which makes it even more torturous for me. All of this came about after he came home from a trip in England for a funeral. I thought maybe he had an affair or was having one, but I'm 99.9% sure he isn't. He has a lot of work stress, and my teenage son has been a huge pain, and I know a lot of the stress comes from him. My husband has always been so loving and amazing with me, a very kind person, but since he told me he was leaving, he's shown me this side of him that is cruel and icy, and I have no idea what to make of it. He's not being himself at all, unless 5 years were an act, and this is who he really is. I am completely devastated and left with no closure or any idea of what is going to happen. He didn't want to separate yet, as he's deciding if he wants me, I guess. He doesn't want to talk for a month so he can sort his thoughts, and that's more torture because, again, I have no answers and no control of the situation. I feel like I'm waiting to be executed, but I don't know when. I'd love some advice. I've managed to give him all of the power, as I was so heartbroken. I was doing all I could to try to bring him home, like writing "open me when" letters because I was worried about him on his own, because clearly something is up with him. But that probably didn't help and made me look desperate. I'm just a sentimental person, and I go all out for the person I love, and it felt like it was the only way I could fight for him without being there. He's apparently felt like this for months, but didn't say a word to me so we could fix it. He also won't see a marriage counselor. I've shifted from deep grief to a hint of anger now, and I'm feeling frustrated because I don't deserve any of this at all. He could have handled things in a much more compassionate and kind way. Still, I want him back. I meant my wedding vows when I said them. Thoughts? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Every single woman I've known in this situation, where their husband out of nowhere wanted to leave and just ran hot and cold on whether or not they wanted to work on things, had one thing in common. Another woman was involved. I would bet my house he's testing the waters with someone else and is just stringing you along in case things don't work out. Regardless of whether it's that or possibly something else, you can't do this to yourself. You need to cut ties and let yourself grieve. He's not worth doing this to yourself over. The marriage is over, and you should focus on healing right now and stop letting him toy with your emotions. Comment 2. I'm going to veer from a lot of the comments. Stop focusing on whether he was cheating, thinking about cheating, etc. At this point, it doesn't matter. He left, and you need to start getting your life together without him. Don't hire a private investigator. Don't go through his phone. Stop worrying so much about him. He's made his choice. You are clearly in mourning, heavy with grief. Meet with a divorce lawyer this week. Serve him divorce papers. Get yourself into therapy. Figure out your life without him. Ending the life of yourself with the why isn't going to give you any relief. Now, for the update. 2 weeks have passed since my husband moved out, and I'm trying to get used to this new normal. Like all the time I spent on Pinterest planning our dream home, totally useless now. I mean, who even needs a cozy reading nook when you're just trying to get by? My anxiety's calmed down a bit. I'm not having panic attacks every hour anymore, which is a win, I guess, but it still sneaks up on me, especially during family events. Forget about holidays. Even regular dinners with my parents are a mess. I just try to smile and nod, hoping no one asks about my life. My teenage son's been having a rough time with all this, so I'm trying to focus on him. He's been really quiet, and not in the normal teenage way where they just grunt at you. It's like he's carrying a huge burden, and I wish I could take it all off him. I scheduled a family dinner for New Year's Eve to keep us connected. I know it's kinda late for that, but I just wanted us to feel like a family again, even for a moment. I invited my husband, hoping we could have a real talk without the pressure of the holidays hanging over us. He agreed to come, but his texts felt so distant. It's like he's talking to a stranger and not his wife. I prepared the house, trying to create a positive vibe. I mean, who doesn't love fairy lights and a fresh pot of chili? My son helped set the table, and we shared some light moments, which were rare for us lately. He even tried to make me laugh by pretending to drop the fancy china. I was like, please don't, and he was like, just kidding. Then he rolled his eyes, and for a second it felt like old times. My husband came over late, looking all disheveled and tired. I was surprised because I expected him to look at least somewhat put together. He used to be the one who'd get mad at me for showing up to family events in sweatpants. Dinner was super awkward. He barely talked, and when he did, it was just short answers. I tried to get him to join in on conversations about light topics, like our son's basketball game and the new Star Wars series. It's like he was in another universe, totally disconnected from us. When midnight hit, we cheered and hugged. My son and I were all in, but my husband just stood there, looking lost in thought. Seriously, how do you celebrate the new year and not feel anything? After the toast, he pulled me aside, saying we needed to talk. We stepped into the kitchen, and he said he felt overwhelmed by everything. I listened as he talked about work stress and family expectations, and then he dropped the news that he needed space to figure things out. I thought my head was going to explode. I told him his absence affects our son, but he just brushed it off like it was nothing. That's when I got defensive. I reminded him of our wedding vows and how family is everything. He shot back that he felt trapped and needed to be free. I could feel the tension rising, so I just changed the subject to something lighter. We went back to the dining room, but the atmosphere was still strained. After everyone left, he got a call and stepped outside. I was left there, all confused. I asked my son if he noticed anything off, and he said he felt the tension too. The next day, we were in the kitchen, and I saw a message on my husband's phone. It was from a woman saying she missed him and wanted to meet. My heart dropped, but I decided not to confront him immediately. I didn't want to make any rash decisions. Instead, I planned a visit to my parents to talk things over and get their advice. At their place, I recounted the events of the previous night, and they were shocked. They offered their support and told me I'd figure it out. I returned home with a clearer mind, ready to confront my husband. He was on the couch, looking at his phone when I walked in. I took a deep breath. I asked him about the message, and he seemed startled but defensive. He claimed it was just a friend from work and insisted there was nothing to worry about. I demanded honesty, saying I could handle the truth, no matter what. He finally admitted he's been feeling lost and confiding in someone. I asked if we could go to couples therapy to work through our issues together. He reluctantly agreed, realizing we needed to try for our son's sake. We scheduled our first session. Edit, I didn't want to mention my husband's recent job loss earlier. It happened in November, and he kept it from me to avoid adding to my stress. I was also aware of the woman messaging him, but he said they were just friends. I hope therapy helps us get back on track. Am I the idiot for telling my friend his wife tried to sleep with me and watching their marriage fall apart? For context, I served in the military with my buddy back in 2013. I lost contact for a while until 2021 when we ran into each other at a restaurant. He had gained a wife and a few children over the years. They were all there, and that was my first time meeting his wife. It turned out they lived 15 minutes away from where I live. So, of course, we get to hang out. He and his wife bicker a lot, which is normal when you've lived with someone for a while. However, she becomes a bit too disrespectful at times, in my opinion, to him during those moments. For context, she joked that his weenie was small, things like that. A blatant lack of respect. Sometimes I see why. My friend isn't a very strong-willed man. He won't stand up to her when she disrespects him in front of company. He once disclosed he struggles with depression and mental health issues. He also shared that he contemplates unalived, however his children are the reason he does not, which scares me. His wife and I were on good terms. We had the type of relationship where we would joke with each other often, in a friendly way. We sent each other memes and funny videos we saw on social media, etc. I never thought it was a problem. I never heard anything about it. I kept things professional and never did anything to cross that boundary. One day, I was over for their youngest child's first birthday party. I'm like an uncle figure to them. There were many people there, family and friends. A few of us were hanging in the kitchen and others around the house. My buddy and his wife started bickering, and that's when she announced that they once argued about me because he thought his wife and I had been intimate. Everyone heard it. He stayed silent. I felt awkward, so I left immediately. The next day, I talked to both of them about it. She apologized, and I clarified with my buddy that nothing like that happened. Fast forward, I went out to a bar. His wife was out with her friends at a different place. She did a video call and saw that I was hanging out and wanted to meet, so she came with 2 other friends. After a while, she started flirting, touching, and asking, "Would you sleep with me?" over and over. She also asked, "If we sleep together, would you tell my husband?" I said, "Yeah, but we will never sleep together." Going home that night, I was very sad and upset about it all. I want to tell my friend, but I'm afraid he might hurt himself and that it might break up the family. Now for an update. I told my friend about this situation, and I also talked to my girlfriend about it. They both handled it way better than a lot of you in the comments. Some of you need help. Anyway, according to him, she told him a lie. She told him, "We just so happened to meet at the bar." I told him the truth, that she called, as well as everything she said. I also showed him that I blocked her on social media, and he confirmed that she did not have my number. He said thanks for letting him know. I would upload a screenshot of the texts, but I don't know how. Message me directly if you want the screenshots. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Brother, he's already hurt, and that family is dysfunctional and broken. So you being honest with him will hopefully help him do what he needs to do to get rid of his depression and leave her. Do the right thing. You know she's bad news. Also, be careful. I would not put it past her that his thinking you 2 slept together is due to her insinuation and keeping him in a distressed mode. So when you tell him, ensure you are in an open space where you can remove yourself if he gets upset. It happens. He's already depressed, and everyone is trying to undermine his marriage in his mind, and you are within reach. Just saying. Next, stop hanging out with them. Comment 2. Please tell him so he doesn't get totally taken advantage of by this leech. We fell off until we reconnected, and I met his wife. Now my friend thinks I slept with his wife, so I'm going to send her memes I think she'd enjoy, FaceTime her, and invite her and her friend out to the bar to meet me and my friend until she confesses she actually does want to sleep with me. If you were actually his friend and not more worried about her, you'd tell him the truth. Now for the update. 3 days after I posted about my situation with my military buddy and his wife, I got a message from him asking to meet for coffee at the local diner. We had to talk in person. I was nervous, to say the least. We had been through a lot, and I wasn't sure where things were going to go from there. I arrived at the diner, and as soon as I walked in, I saw him sitting at a booth with a coffee in front of him. His face was tense, and I immediately felt how serious the situation was. We exchanged pleasantries, but it was clear that we both had a lot on our minds. He mentioned that he'd been thinking about everything that had gone down with his wife. I listened as he revealed that he had a long talk with her after hearing about the bar incident from me. He admitted he felt betrayed and was unsure of what to do next. I get it, man. It's not easy dealing with this stuff, especially when kids are involved. I suggested we go for a walk to clear our heads a little. As we left the diner, his phone rang. It was his wife. He answered it reluctantly. I couldn't help but overhear her yelling about me spreading rumors and being untrustworthy. The call ended suddenly, and he looked even more stressed. We decided to grab lunch at a nearby taco truck to discuss things further. During lunch, he shared that he had been feeling isolated from his wife and family. I mentioned that I'd noticed his wife's behavior had changed since the birthday party. He expressed concern over the impact this would have on their kids if things escalated. We both knew this was getting messy, and we didn't want the kids to suffer. I suggested documenting everything that had happened to keep track of events in case it came down to needing proof. He agreed. We parted ways after. He expressed a desire to confront his wife again. I just hoped he was careful. Later that day, I got an unexpected message from his wife on social media. Basically, she accused me of trying to sabotage her marriage and demanded to meet up to discuss it. I didn't respond. I knew that meeting would just be a disaster waiting to happen. A couple of days later, I ran into an old mutual friend at the grocery store. We exchanged pleasantries, and I casually mentioned the situation with my buddy. He revealed that he had heard rumors about the wife being unfaithful. My gut tightened. He mentioned seeing her out at a bar with some guy during the weekend after the birthday party. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this. That night, my buddy and I met at a local bowling alley for some distraction and fun. As we bowled, I brought up what I had heard. He went pale. He revealed that he suspected something was off, but didn't want to believe it. We decided to investigate together. We started checking social media for clues. That's when I discovered pictures of his wife at the bar with another man, posted by a mutual acquaintance. We had to confront this acquaintance. We met them at a nearby coffee shop about the photos. The acquaintance reluctantly admitted that they saw the wife flirting heavily with the guy. My buddy and I came up with a plan to gather more evidence. We decided to attend a party hosted by the wife's friend to keep an eye on her. At the party, I spotted her acting overly friendly with a guy in the corner. My buddy and I overheard her making suggestive comments that confirmed the rumors. My buddy recorded the conversation discreetly on his phone. The next day, my buddy confronted his wife during dinner about everything. She became defensive and accused him of not trusting her. They argued loudly, and the kids heard everything, which led to a chaotic scene. My buddy told his wife he wanted a separation until they could work through their issues. Things are still complicated, so I'll make sure to post an update if anything big happens. My buddy and I are just trying to tread carefully, especially for the kids' sake. He says he's going to talk to a lawyer to figure things out, and I just hope they can keep it civil. I've been doing my best to steer clear of his wife and all the drama, but I know it'll get messier before it gets better. Just hoping for some clarity soon. Edit. My buddy is now in a temporary rental close to the kids' school. They're still figuring out living arrangements and custody. His wife is staying with her sister. His family has been supportive. No legal issues yet. We're focusing on keeping things normal for the kids. Update will follow as things progress. Am I the idiot for refusing to let my cheating ex play happy family with our daughter? I found out he was cheating on me on November 7th, 2023, and had been since 2020. We have a child together, and since the day she was born, he never helped me with her. He refused to learn to change diapers, wouldn't bathe her, help with bedtime, or even try bottle feeding her. I tried to do couples therapy with him to work it out, but he initially refused, saying I should just trust him. Of course, I didn't. He eventually agreed, but after feeling attacked in the first session, the therapist told him he should do individual therapy along with couples because he shows signs of an intimacy addiction. He canceled the rest of the sessions, saying we could work it out without therapy. I broke up with him, but we still lived together while I saved up to move out. He quickly began dating someone else, but we both agreed not to have anyone we were dating in our shared space since we both lived there. Fast forward a few months, he stopped coming home, which was fine, but my daughter always asked about him. I soon found out that he and his new girlfriend and her children were in the house all the time. And when my daughter and I went out of town, he and the girlfriend slept in my bed, and her children were in my daughter's room. After confronting him about it, he said that we could move out at any time since it was weird that we were still there. So I did that same day. My daughter and I left and slept on my parents' couch for a week and then moved into an apartment with my parents' help. For the next 6 months, he only saw our daughter for about 6 hours a month. One day a month, he'd see her. He also refused to pay for anything of hers, and after a while, I got tired of asking for help, so I just let him show up as he pleased. Now for an update. On December 1st, 2024, he broke up with the girlfriend and decided that he wants to be the man we deserve, and has been seeing my daughter at least 2 days a week. Started buying me gifts and flowers, and keeps asking me to take him back. I keep telling him I don't see him like that, but he's not stopping. Every conversation is him flirting and telling me why we belong together. One of the reasons being, it's healthy for our daughter to have both parents together, and I'd actually have help. I don't want him back, and I'm very happy being single, especially after all he put me through. Him doing all of this makes me wish he was absent again, because I'm constantly uncomfortable with him trying to pursue me. I've been telling him for weeks I'm not interested, and I'd like to be co-parents and maybe friends. But he keeps saying he wants more and that we belong together. What can I say to make him get the hint? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Go to court for support and visitation. Only contact him via a court-approved parenting app. Ignore him on every other platform. Make your social media private and allow access only to people you know. Block him on your phone. You aren't required to engage with him. In the future, it may get easier to co-parent. For now, keep contact to a minimum. Comment 2. Tell him to put that money he is wasting on buying gifts into child support. Tell him you are taking him to court for child support. I can promise that if he is as not serious about it as you feel, he will run in the other direction. I know you want him out of your life, but that money is for your daughter, and she deserves it. Now for the update. 2 days after moving into my new place, I got this text from him asking if we could talk about our daughter. Like, what do you even mean, talk? You're not even supposed to be in her life right now. I just ignored it, focusing on unpacking boxes and all that adulting stuff. I mean, have you ever tried to assemble a bed frame with just a wrench and an Allen key? Total nightmare. My parents came by to help me settle in, which was a lifesaver. They brought a few of my daughter's toys from the old place, and my mom was all, "Look at this! Your daughter missed her stuffed giraffe!" I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I know. I miss my life too." Anyway, she mentioned that he was trying to reach out and seemed desperate to see our daughter. I decided to keep all this communication about co-parenting strictly about our kid. Not going to get sucked into whatever drama he's trying to pull. A week later, Mr. Desperate himself called and asked if he could take our daughter to this local holiday fair. I thought, hey, maybe it'll be good for their relationship, so I agreed. But I set these strict boundaries about pickup and drop-off times. Like, if you can't be a dad on a Tuesday at 3 p.m., you can't be a dad on a Saturday at noon. A few days later, I got a call from my daughter's preschool saying he picked her up without telling me. I was livid. I confronted him about it, and he had the nerve to say he was trying to surprise her with a fun day. A fun day? You mean a fun day where you completely ignore her other parents' schedule? He got all defensive, insisting he was trying to be a good dad, and I was just overreacting. I told him he was crossing a line, and he stormed out of my apartment, slamming the door like a toddler. That weekend, I took my daughter to my parents' place for dinner to keep things chill. My sister Kate brought her new boyfriend along, and they all seemed to have a great time. While we were eating, my phone buzzed with a message from him, asking if I was ready to be a family again. Seriously? After all this? After you tried to kidnap our daughter for a fun day? I just can't with him. After dinner, my daughter ran off to play with her cousins, which gave me a moment to breathe. So there I was, trying to chill, when I saw my sister talking to my mom in the kitchen. I overheard them discussing my situation, and my sister suggested I should let him see our daughter more often to ease tensions. You mean tensions that he created? Yeah, no thanks. The next day I ran into him at the grocery store while picking up some stuff. He came up to me with this big smile, holding a toy for our daughter, acting like everything was fine. I told him to stop trying to buy affection and focus on being a real parent instead. He got all defensive again, saying he was just trying to make up for lost time. Yeah, well, you can't make up for lost time with a stuffed unicorn from Walmart. I started keeping track of every time he failed to show up for visits or help out financially, just in case I needed to use it later. A few weeks later, I planned this small birthday party for our daughter and invited my parents and sister. Didn't invite him, knowing it might be a good chance to reinforce boundaries. On the day of the party, he showed up uninvited, insisting he wanted to celebrate his daughter's birthday. I told him he wasn't welcome, and he started arguing with me in front of our guests. My parents stepped in, and my dad asked him to leave, which he reluctantly did. After that, I contacted a local parenting group to get some advice on co-parenting without conflict. Eventually, I took it a step further by drafting a letter outlining visitation schedules and expectations for financial support. I sent it to him via email, making it super clear that I wouldn't tolerate any more surprises or arguments. He responded with a bunch of angry messages, but I didn't engage. What was I gonna say? Sorry, but your new girlfriend's kids aren't available for playdates today? At the end of the month, I found out he started dating someone new again. Awesome, right? Just what we need. The new girlfriend posted a picture of them together at my daughter's favorite park, and I just rolled my eyes. Classic. So then I thought, why not give my daughter something fun? I contacted a local photographer to set up a photo shoot for her. It'd be great to have some cute pics of her in her new space. I sent an announcement to him about the photo shoot, letting him know he could join if he wanted. Part of me was like, enjoy that park with your new girlfriend, buddy. My daughter's gonna be busy. Edit. I didn't have any issues with the new girlfriend. He did try to bring her to visit our daughter, but I said no. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.